Good evening and welcome to tonight's Hearthstone Half Hour. I'm Hammy, this is FailCraft Casts. Hope you're very well this Tuesday evening. It's a Tuesday and we are going to jump into a bit of Pick Your Own Arena Tuesdays. And today we've actually got ourselves organised, got gold on the table and got our 3 arena choices early in the day. So you guys have chosen Mage. Between all of us, Druid was a very close second and poor Paladin with the neglected Hammer of Wrath was in third. So let us jump on in. We are going to be grabbing a Mage and let's see what you guys are going to pick for us today. So Mage, one of the stronger arena classes, just due to the sheer amount of control it has, as well as nice damage, nice spells and similar. First draft up, we will rattle through as we always do, a little bit about each card as we see them, while everyone live on Twitch picks what they fancy that we're going to play. You guys can be nice to me, you guys can be absolutely horrible to me. Draft the most horrible deck you like. It's entirely up to you. So Stampeding Kodo, destroying a random enemy minion with 2 attack or less. You do see a bunch of small minions in arena, so not too bad. Blizzard, expensive at 6 mana, but dealing 2 damage to all enemy minions and freezing them. Can be table clearance, it can be slowing your opponent down, it can be a bunch of stuff. And then the Mana Addict, last but not least. Whenever you cast a spell, gain 2 attack this turn, so if you have a lot of cheap spells you can throw them down, attack with the Mana Addict. Blizzard has been picked. Let us jump on a Blizzard straight up, so going straight in for the big control spell there. Next up, round 2, we have Harvest Golem, Shieldbearer and the Iron Fur Grizzly. So the Harvest Golem is a 2 for 1. You get 2 for the price of 1 by dropping him because you get the Death Rattled 2-1 damage Golem, and you know what, it's annoying, you can pick away with people and similar. The Shieldbearer, just a cheap early game tank, hard to remove, slows things down. And then the Iron Fur Grizzly, having trouble speaking today. The Iron Fur Grizzly is a solid 3/3/3. There is not much to say about it, it's good for its stats, but you guys have gone for the Golem, so Golem it is. Next up we have the Stone Tusk Boar, we have a Frostbolt, we have a Fireball, and between those 3 becomes your first slightly tougher choice. So the Stone Tusk Ball, it's basically a trading, it's a token. I can ping in and charge with it and do similar. Remove bubbles, do a little bit of chip damage in the early game. Frostbolt, real solid. 2 mana for 3 damage and a freeze. You can be using that freeze. And then the Fireball, slightly more mana, but the big nuke later in the game. Votes are all away for Frostbolt, so let us jump on in and get that for you. Nicely drafted so far. We have Stranglethorn Tiger, Arcane Explosion and Argent Squire, and if you hear me mashing away in the chat, it's to make sure that I type out the next draft choices to avoid any lag, so we can keep things moving. The Stranglethorn Tiger, 5 mana, 5 attack, 5 health, and with that stealth you'll drop it turn 5, it's just a solid drop unless there's some crazy AoE, it's going to live and do 5 damage to something next go. So, can be used to trade and similar. Arcane Explosion, that is clearance against token minions, or perhaps a bit of a finishing spell, maybe if you've got some spell damage cards on the table. Last but not least, the Argent Squire, a very solid pinging card again. It doesn't have charge, but for the 1/1 you get Divine Shield, so it's a 2 for 1 as well. Arcane Explosion, universally picked. So we keep on rolling. We have a Flame Strike, a Dark Iron Dwarf, and a Loot Hoarder, so 3 nice picks there. Flame Strike, a basic card, but 4 damage to enemy minions, that is your late game massive at table clearance. Not much is going to be surviving that. Dark Iron Dwarf, 4/4, but you get the 2 more attack that turn. And then last but not least, Loot Hoarder, a lovely little card if you can come up, if they're an obvious one, for just some draw power and a little bit of chip damage in the game. But you guys have gone for Flame Strike, so Flame Strike it shall be. Another Shieldbearer, a Wisp, and a Mogushan Warden. That's not the nicest pick between the 3, even though they are all, I believe, rare. We've gone for Shieldbearer, we know that. Wisp is a funny one, it's just that 0 mana you can drop and do some bits and bobs with, but 2 picks for the Warden. 4 mana, but just a big wally solid tank that's going to be a pain to get past. So we are moving nice and quickly. Good job, guys. And it was, I absolutely agree with you in the chat there, Tom, it was not the nicest set to choose from. But we have an interesting set here. The Newish Inventor, 4/2/4. What it lacks for an attack, it makes up for in the battle cry of drawing a card, and it can chip away and maybe trade some stuff away. The River Croclist, a solid early drop, 2/2/3. That 3 health, awkward, 2 mana phase, you'll probably get a couple of hits with that. And the Guri Bashi Berserker. Nice in a Mage, actually. Remember that, of course, I can damage my own minion using my Fireball. and buff it up myself. If my opponent attacks it, it can get buffed up as well. Everyone in the chat is currently split. We've got a 50-50 between the Gnomish Inventor and the Guru Bashi Berserker. So I shall wait for any casting votes. If there aren't any casting votes, then I will jump in and be a moody third-person decision maker. Or we can toss a coin. If I had a coin on me, let's have a look at our mana curve so far. Yeah, okay, we've got a little bit all over the place. I'm actually going to go with the Guru Bashi, to be controversial and to keep things moving. Reason for that is because if we have a look at our late game, no massive minions at the moment. The Gurubashi Berserker could be an interesting finisher, but the Gnomish Inventor would have been an equally solid pick for that card draw and trading as well. So next up we have the Master Swordsmith. We have the Ethereal Arcanist and the Light Warden. Master Swordsmith buffing up all of your tokens. If that stays alive for a few turns, if you can put it behind a tank, it is going to make your minions just generally more dangerous. So quite a nice pick, particularly in rush decks. We're not rushing right now, but doesn't mean to say it can be useful. The Ethereal Arcanist, if you have a secret at the end of your turn, gain 2/2. So if I have a couple of secrets down and I can actually drop that card, it gains additional health and attack. Could become nasty quite quick. And last but not least, the Light Warden. Whenever a character is healed, gain 2 attack. I'm not really going to be healing anything. That is nicer in priest decks. We again have a direct tie, and to make things even, I went with one side of the camp last time, so I'm going to go the other side of the camp this time. I'm going to go for the Swordsmith. Who knows, it might buff our tokens quite nicely. The Nightblade, the Abusive Sergeant, and the Ogre Mage. And if I'm charging through, I do apologise. It's because I do tend to find that in this draft your own arena, we can spend almost the entire of the half hour just drafting the arena, so I'm going to try and turbo through today. The Nightblade, 3 direct damage to the enemy hero, and then a solid 4/4 attack and health that can do some awkwardness. The Abusive Sergeant, hey, if we're going to try and draft a lot of cheap early minions, giving that kind of a minion to attack this turn and rush could be interesting. Last but not least, the Ogre Magi. 4/4, so nothing really special to say about the stats, but of course that spell damage +1, and with 4 health it should be kicking around for a couple of turns to help us make the most advantage of that, if, and it is a big if, we have spells that we can be thrown away. There is a tie between the Nightblade and the Ogre. We have a swinging vote. Tom, your vote will make the difference. It is all up to you. Hashtag no pressure. Oh, and we have other people in the chat turning back on their decisions as well. Come on, guys. Let's get it moving. Let us reach consensus, or I shall do my random jumping in and deciding for yous. Tick tock, tick tock. While we have a look, let's take a look at our mana curve. Well, there's nothing to look at this mana curve at the moment, but we're almost at 10 cards. Ooh, Nightblade. Okay, we have a consensus on Nightblade. That throws in. Ooh, and it's a nice draft. Okay, we have a Pyroblast, a Doomsayer, and a Blood Knight. Well, Pyroblast, what is there? There's not much to say about that apart from Pyroblast in your face for 10 damage. You don't want to be blasting a minion with Pyroblast. It's a big card to the face. Doomsayer, again, can be quite nice. Destroying all minions, that 7 health is awkward to get rid of. So this is brilliant for table clearance, but it's all minions. It is your minions too. Last but not least, there is a Blood Knight. So if you're playing a lot of bubbles in your deck, or if you're playing against a deck with a lot of bubbles, suddenly you can get a very nasty big Blood Knight, because it destroys Divine Shields. Between you, we have 50-50 split between Pyroblast and Doomsayer, so I'm going to jump in and intervene. I am also a fan of the big nasty Pyroblast, so let's grab one of those. The Ancient Watcher, the Young Priestess, and the Knife Juggler. So Ancient Watcher, we only really are going to want to play that if we can A, silence it to get its 4/5 attack for that cheap mana, or B, if we've got things like Sun Fury Protectors, also the Defender of Argus, anything, long story short, that gives you a tanking ability. But both of you and chat have voted for the Knife Juggler, so I don't need to explain him. He's there, he's solid, he causes chip damage every single time that a minion is laid, and he does not die. So, nice card to have in there. Nice 3 cards here. We've got Fireball, which we've already gone through, a Polymorph, and a Bluegill Warrior. So Fireball, 6 damage, 4 mana, not much to say about that. The Bluegill Warrior, nice cheap charging minion. You can get 2 ping damage on something at the turn that you play it. And last but not least, we have the Polymorph, transforming a minion into a 1/1 sheep. Crowd control, nice, and of course, however nasty that is. I might have gone with Polymorph, but you guys have universally gone for Fireball, so you say we obey. But there's nothing wrong with the Fireball. You can either be controlling things by polymorphing them and then using the one fireball, I forgot what it's called, Fire Blast ability of the Mage, or you can just hit it to the face with a fireball, so nothing wrong with that. Between these three, you've got Ice Lance, freeze a character, if it's frozen you do 4, Arcane Missiles and Abusive Sergeant. A 50-50 split. The Sergeant we've already gone through for buffs. The Arcane Missiles, 3 damage for 1 mana is ridiculously efficient. However, it is random, so it can hit absolutely whatever. We have a split in the chat. Gone both ways recently, so I'm tempted to actually just go for a random Ice Lance, but if you look at the moment, we don't have huge amounts of ice spells, so for that reason I'm actually going to go with Missiles. Mad Bomber, the Sorcerer's Apprentice, and another Bluegill Warrior. So the Mad Bomber, you see this turn up so much in Arena. It has the the solid core I was going for, that somehow became Saw. Solid core stats for 2 mana, you get 3 attack and 2 health, but then that 3 random damage between all other characters, that could be your hero, it could be your minions, or your opponent's hero or minions as well, so an interesting mix. The Sorcerer's Apprentice, spells costing 1 less, and those solid stats are very nice all over Mage card. And last but not least, the Bluegill Warrior with that charge as well. Another split in the chat, we've gone between Apprentice and the Mad Bomber. The temptation of the Mad Bomber's randomness just being too tempting for all of you. We'll just see if there's any consensus. And again, I have the casting. YOLO Bomber is certainly a YOLO Bomber. I'd like to try and... I feel as though I let you guys down in the last Pick Your Own Arena, the warrior that I drafted. So at the moment I'm going for slightly more sensible deciding picks. If there's another YOLO Bomber, we'll pick him, but I went for the Sorcerer's Apprentice for the spells on this time. Forgive me for being a little bit on the straight-laced side. Okay, next up we have the Scarlet Crusader, the Archmage, and the Booty Bay Bodyguard. The Scarlet Crusader, 3/3, 1 low health, but that Divine Shield will let you ping something away and let it live for at least 1 turn. Fingers crossed. We then have the Archmage, so really kind of solid health, not huge attack, but because of its tankiness, quite expensive on the mana, you'll be able to use that spell damage +1 for a couple of turns. And last but not least, the Booty Bay Bodyguard, just oh so solid, taunting card, and a nice bit of attack as well. That is going to be causing problems at 5 mana. 2 votes for the Crusader. The Crusader is in. Next up, Raging Worgen, Frost Nova, and Goldshire Footman. Raging Worgen, if you can enrage, and remember that with our Mage power we can enrage him ourselves. When you're in 1 attack, you instantly have a 8 damage and double attack on that, which is very nice. Frost Nova, just a straight up freeze of all minions, slowing your opponent down, allowing you to buy an extra turn of time. And then the pretty simple Goldshire Footman, 1/1/2, tanking in the early game, not doing a huge bunch else. At the moment the votes are for the Raging Worgen, so Worgen gets the nod. Okay, we're at 16 out of 30. So let's just do a quick review of what we've got. Always good, maybe 10, 20, 30 cards through when you draft arenas, to just review what you've got and have a look at your mana curve, how many minions and spells you have, and then try and work out where your deck is going. So at the moment we are a big concentration at 2 and 3 mana. We've got quite an early game, of course. Early cheap picks in Arena, never really a bad thing, putting the pressure on early, but we've still got some things in the late game as well. Let's then break into that deck and see what we have. So I always do minions versus spells. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 minions. That gives us a remainder of 8 spells. Okay, not too bad. In the early game, what kind of minions do we have? Well, we can throw down some cheap minions in the early game, perhaps be pinging. There's still opportunity for us to swarm if we want, because we've got the Swordsmith and Knife Juggler. Sorcerer's Apprentice we can drop at any time to help our spells. In the mid game we've got Harvest Golem, Raging Worgen, Scarlet Crusader. We are still going to keep some pressure on there in this early game. We can throw some good minions out in the early game at our opponent, and then with the Morgshrine Warden and good Bashi Berserker we have a tank to slow things up, and then kind of a finisher. The Nightblade will let us do some additional damage and push through as well. Spell wise we've got damage and clearance, we've got direct freezing and damage, We've got Fireball, direct damage, we've got Blizzard for area effect clearance and direct damage, and then Flame Strike for more clearance, and then Pyroblast as well. So you know what, we've kind of drafted this deck straight down the middle. We have sort of a rushing minion option that we could take advantage of, and we also have some very solid spell power. So where we go in the next 15 cards, it's kind of up to you guys, but we've got a very nice solid core of an arena deck there, so very nicely played. Let's take a look and see where we go in this next half. So Stormwind Champion, late game finisher, buffing up all of our minions with 1/1. If you're swarming and getting minions down, then that will cause some trouble, so it'll be a very nice pick. Second up, we've got Shield Bearer. That's really just protecting us in the early game, throwing something down, slowing things up. And then thirdly and last, I think Spiteful Smith. We have no weapon, we are a mage, so that enrage is not going to be huge use to us. However, 5, 4, 6, 5 mana, things with 4 attack and 6 health can be awkward, so even if you see something like that, if you don't have a better pick, it's not necessarily the worst pick in the world, because you can use that to sort of ping away at a few minions, cause a bit of trouble, and do a bit of trading as well. You guys need to take your picks. Shield Bearer, 2 votes for the Shield Bearer, and then we have the early game option. Unity Untold in the chat, good stuff. Ancient Mage, the Alarmo bot, and the Cold Light Oracle. There's an interesting 3 rares to pick from. So the Ancient Mage, we just give it 2 adjacent minions spell damage 1. So if we drop that in the right place at the right time, suddenly we have spell damage 2 on a bunch of minions. So that can be interesting. 2/5, it then just sort of sits there and picks away at things until it gets deaded, pretty much. The Alarmo bot, so fun if you've got expensive minions. Fun for the random factor. It's kind of like the Mad Bomber of the switching things around world. Last but not least, the Cold Light Oracle. You do, of course, both draw 2 cards if you drop that on the table with that battle cry, so you're giving your opponent 2 cards as well. If you can throw down a Cold Light Oracle and your opponent has a full hand and you don't, then it does give you the benefit and force them to discard 2, so not so bad. You know, gives you a bit of a deck out option, or certainly a deck burn option against your opponent. What do you guys fancy? Let us keep this drafting on going. So far, I vote for the Ancient of Mages. Okay, Ancient Mage gets the nod. So next up, we've got Novice Engineer, Abusive Sergeant. And this deck seems to be just directing us towards the early game. We're just drawing a lot of early game minions at the moment. That's not necessarily a bad thing. So Novice Engineer lets you draw a card. End of. Abusive Sergeant buffs you up. Ironfoe Grizzly, solid tankage for its mana cost with reasonable attack. Nothing much to say there. I'm thinking that everyone's going to be going with the Engineer. Tends to be a good pick. Card draw in arenas, card draw in card games is always generally pretty tasty. Engineer has the nod. Engineer is the one we are going for. Oh, and someone comes in just a little too late. We've got an Imp Master, Cold Light Oracle, and a Ravenholt Assassin. And the Imp Master, so that just lets us swarm. Now, remember that when we summon a 1/1 Imp... Oh, I've just... my clicking got the better of me there. Sorry, guys in the chat. Ninja. Cool. Okay, well, it's a good job that you guys wanted Imp Master anyway. I was about to say, Imp Master will actually trigger Knife Juggler as far as I remember, so that can be loads of fun with Swarmage. Okay, next up we have Water Elemental. We've got the Voodoo Doctor, and then the Thralma Farseer, the Water Elemental. The freeze can be awkward. Freezing any character damaged by the minion just slows things down. You can freeze heroes. Solid health means it just sticks around. It's an awkward card to play against, even in Constructed. 2 votes for the Elemental. I don't even have to talk about anything else. And another Water Elemental. Then a River Croc, and then an Arcane Intellect. So that's quite a tough decision. I won't go through the Elemental. We've already done the Croc as a solid early game minion. Then Arcane Intellect is just straight up draw power. Throw it down, draw a couple of cards. Card draw is good. Water Elementals are also good. Nothing wrong with the Croc, but I think we've got enough 2 mana sort of minion drops for this point in time. A tough decision for you guys, ladies and gentlemen. I think that there's a direct split. Half of you are torn for the Intellect, the other half of you are pondering the benefits of the Elemental. There's some good fun either way to be had there. And interesting, if we take a look at the late game, we do have some options. I'm going to toss a coin. Let's start the coin toss. Do like the card draw. Ooh, coin toss. Okay, I'm going to go and find the coin toss website. Okay. Heads will be the elemental and tails will be the arcane intellect. I'm going to flip one coin. Flip coin. I flipped one coin and it was a tails. Oh, so that means arcane intellect. You get the draw power. And you guys even came to a joint decision. Good stuff. Go team. Got a Daran Mage. Got a Polymorph. And then also a young Dragonhawk. So Daran Mage, extra spell damage, sits around, causes problems. Just chip, take a while to get rid of that full health, people might leave it. Poly, just for the sheer polyness, and the young Dragonhawk, you get a Wind Fury if it stays alive. 2 votes for Poly, nice and simple, keep it on moving. Loving her work, keep it up. Frostnova is River Croc and a Stormwind Knight. That's a pretty nasty draw, really. A Stormwind Knight. I can't even type anymore. I'm just mashing my keyboard to try and get it all out. More viewers joining, welcome. We are halfway through pretty much our draft your own arena. So on Tuesday nights we pick an arena. You guys pick the hero, you guys pick the cards, and then we try and play a few games and see how it runs. And general confusion and outrage at how many crocs there have been. I think at least 4. many crocs to be had. So what are we going to have from these 3? Well, the Frostnova freezes. The Knight, okay, I mean it's not got a great attack, it's just an annoying card, but 2 votes for the Knight. We guys go with it. Okay, we've got 6 cards left to go, so just before our last 6 cards, and to let the guys who've just joined the stream get acclimatised to our deck, I'm just going to run through our sort of second marker. I should have probably done it about 20 cards, but remember when you're drafting arena, always stop every now and then and have a look at your mana curve, your minions to spells ratio, and then how your deck is playing out. So at the moment you can see we've continued with our theme, and we've got 2, 3 and 4 mana plenty. We've got lots of early game options here, a little bit weaker in the late game. So at the moment we're looking to put a lot of pressure on just by looking at the mana curve in the early game. So now let's go and have a look at minions to spell ratio. Why do I do that? Well, it just gives an indication as to what kind of play style we're going to be playing. Early in the game for minions we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's Nightblade. I'll scroll down a little bit further. I can't. I can. Is it going to let me? There we go. I've managed to lose track. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, 14 minions and 10 spells. So in terms of early game, what do we have? Well, we've got a nice little rush on there. We can drop quite a bit, save the Sorcerer's Apprentice if we want. We can follow that into the mid game with a Knife Juggler and an Imp Master. We could be causing problems. The Worgen we can enrage, the Crusader we can trade with, and then with the Ancient Mage and Mogushan Warden, Stormwind Knight, we're kind of keeping the table under control, I think, really until the late game when we can perhaps fling in with a few things. But at the moment we do have Pyroblast as a finisher. I think we're trying to keep the table under control and do chip damage to the hero in the early game, and then use our big nukes to finish them in the late game. So that's a reasonable strategy. I'm pretty happy with where we are so far. Okay, so Dark Scale Healer, Cone of Cold, and Stone Tusk Ball. And as you guys choose between those 3, I will just go back to our sort of deck and strategy, given that we are going to be probably, by the looks of things, in the early game putting some pressure on, trying to keep the table under control and do chip damage to their hero, and then in the late game trying to throw some big spells. So you guys can pick pretty much whatever you like. I'm pretty sure that we'll have lots of cards that go with our general theme. Votes to the Cone of Cold. Nice and easy. Okay, what have we got left to see this draft in? A Flame Strike, a Shattered Sun Cleric, and an Archmage. Flame Strike, even more clearance in the late game if we didn't have enough already. Shattered Sun, nice if we want to continue that early to mid game theme. We can buff, it's got good attack, it might trigger something on a Knife Juggler for a bit of chip damage as well. And then yet another Archmage for the late game if we really want to be upping our spell damage, but not the hugest attack, however some health to keep it around for a reasonable period of time. What would you guys fancy? As I'll just TV FailCraft Cast. And although me typing is not the most engaging commentary, I do apologise. We have a Risk of the Archmage. interesting at the moment. So we can get going. The Archmage it is. 4 cards to go. Frostbolt. We've got an Arcane Missiles again. And a Murloc Raider. Murloc Raider is just a bog standard Murloc. And I don't know if it's an English phrase or a British phrase, bog standard. You guys from the US and elsewhere or Europe will have to let me know. But Arcane Missiles, the damage, Frostbolt, the damage also, Frostbolt has been picked. So let's keep on moving. Darkscale Healer, we've got a Loot Hoarder, and a Jungle Panther. So Darkscale Healer just heals everything up with 4 attack and 5 health. It can be doing a bit of damage as well, but a nice late game heal option if you've got a lot of stuff on the table. Loot Hoarder does damage, lets you draw a card. Not a bad pick whatsoever. And then finally the Jungle Panther, which you can throw down with that stealth mechanic. Anything with cheaper mana, big health, and big attack and generally smaller health, the stealth will keep it alive. 2 votes for the Hoarder. So the Hoarder it is. Twin Warrior, the Boulder Fist Ogre, and the Grimscale Oracle. So the Grimscale I will just outlaw because all other Murlocs have 1 attack. We don't have Murlocs. I don't think there's huge use there, and we've got a lot of stuff in the early game already. So this is where checking on in with your draft at regular intervals, 10, 20, maybe 25 cards, lets you shape your draft in the later game. Makes you aware of what you need, what you don't need. I can pretty much say we don't need a Grimscale Ogre. The Boulder Fist Ogre, Grimscale Ogre? Grimscale Oracle, an Ogre Murloc would be a sight indeed. Boulder Fist Ogre could be a late game finisher for us. 2 votes for it, and it is picked, but the Tauren was also a nice card too. Bloodcell Corsair, the Master Swordsmith. Ooh, and an interesting third option there in the Gadgets and Auctioneer. So the Bloodcell Corsair, I can remove durability from a weapon, it's an early pick, enough said. Master Swordsmith, another one of those, alongside the existing one we have. If we throw a couple of those down and we swarm with minions in the early game, it could really make some of our minions quite nasty. But the tempting pick for the Miracle style, throw spells, draw cards, is the Gadgets and Auctioneer. If we can keep that alive and drop cheap spells, we don't have huge amounts of cheap spells in this deck, remember, but if we can keep that alive and drop cheap spells, it will let us draw some cards. Yep, debate from you guys in the chat. Do we have enough spells for the Auctioneer? Well, that's a good question. When I looked at 24 cards, I believe we had 14 minions and 10 spells. Auctioneer it is. You guys have gone for the bold play, and there we go. So let's do a quick review of what we have and get right into this game. So how did we pick? As a quick review before we start playing, you can see all loads in the 2 to 4 mana range, but a bit at the end as well. So we are pressuring in the early game regardless. If we jump in and have a look at our final breakdown, if I can actually remember how to count, which could be useful. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're quite minion heavy. 11, 12, 13, 14, up to the water elemental, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 minions and 11 spells. So we've got enough stuff to trigger some spells, do some damage. What are we doing? Well, in the early game, you can see by our minions, we're throwing out all of our minions in the early game, trying to do damage, keep the board under control, do chip damage. Lovely. As we move into the early to mid game, not only do we have control spells, and we also have control spells in the early game, we do have minions and spells that we can use to cement our advantage. The Mogshwan will give us a taunt. I think this Storm and Night could actually be interesting in terms of keeping the table under control. In the late game, we can throw out spells with the Gadgets and Auctioneer, buff our Gurubasi Berserker, and then throw out a Pyroblast, hopefully for the win. So let us now see how this is actually going to go. So, in our Arena Tuesdays, we always get you folks to draft our deck and pick our hero, and then we try and commentate over the top as much as we can, as we then throw it straight into the arena to see how the deck that you have chosen in your wisdom is performing. Welcome to those new viewers out there. If you have just joined us, we have drafted an Arena deck live on twitch.tv, and we are then taking it into the arena to see how it performs. Interesting. So we have a Priest. Priests have got some options. They could be throwing out their control cards, Shadowed Pain, Shadowed Death, all kinds of nastiness, but because of the form of our deck, what I want, I know that we have picked a lot of early to mid game minions. So Sorry, just responding yet. We will, as always, do a little bit of a stream. We'll take a break and then probably stream on a bit after we have finished this commentated episode. We'll do some quiet streaming, ladder, arena, or whatever you guys fancy. So, because our deck is very, very early to mid-game focused, I, therefore, in that hand, naturally mulliganed. I knew that what I wanted to do, what you guys have picked for me, is to try and put lots of minions and pressure on in the early to mid-game. Therefore, there's no point me having very expensive cards. So, what options do I have? Well, I could throw down the Swordsmith. As soon as I drop any kind of damage on this, he will try and sort of maybe damage himself with it. The 3 damage is unlikely to finish him off, so I'm actually going to go with the Swordsmith. Naturally, if I'm a priest, I want to get damage on the Northshire Cleric, so I can then start drawing cards. Obviously, he could then just attack me, take some damage, draw a card by healing himself if he's stuck for cards, or maybe he's got other things. But that's actually a really nice early game combination, and while we show off how that's working, it's worth knowing that that combo, these combo of cards that we've picked, you actually see in some constructed decks. So the arena is a nice place actually for testing out some concepts. If you don't have the cards yourself to try out some ladder concepts, why not try them in the arena? You can, obviously, with the random factor, the first thing you want to try and do is draft a deck that's going to work. There's no point trying to force a deck that you're just not getting the cards for in the arena. But if you get the opportunity to, why not? So the Zoo Warlock that charges in with lots of powerful minions in the early game does exactly this. You'll put up cheap tanks like the Shield Bearer or the Void Walker. You'll use cards like the Master Swordsmith to buff attack and Young Priestess to buff health. And then last but not least, you will cause some pain. So I'm actually going to go ahead and finish off that priest, because I don't want my priest to be able to be drawing any cards for my opponent. I have brought myself in slight danger range, but you can see that the longer that Swordsmith stays on the table, the more he's going to be causing me benefits and my opponent problems. So you generally see the Swordsmith in constructed play, or if you're making an arena deck, I may sneeze. Pardon me, don't want to hear me sneezing on microphone. The microphone can be loud and it can be a bit nasty. So you will see the Swordsmith, you will see the Young Priestess as well, that's well worth checking out. Oh, and the Thought Steal, so good. And a hiccup as well, beg pardon. So you can see that the Thought Steal, really, really nice. You see that in Constructed Priestess, and you can also see it in arenas as well, to a very good effect. If I have hiccups for the rest of the screen, this could be very, very embarrassing. Anyway, Water Elemental is just going to go straight down. Let's get that pressure going. Keep that swarm moving. Okie dokie, so we have got a nice buff. So we've now got lots of threats down. The more minions we drop, the more trouble our priest friend is going to be in. He does, remember, of course, have powerful AoE clearance. He will have Holy Nova. He went second, so he has the coin as well, I do believe. So there's plenty. Oh, there's a straight up silence, and he's probably going to... Interesting. So he stopped the freeze effect, which is interesting. However, it's not going to help because I will still be able to keep trading. So what options do I have? Okay, well, I can just go for a straight up trade here without the freeze. I may as well just remove that from the table, and then I can start causing some pain with my Gurubashi Berserker. I could get the loot order to get the card draw to keep on coming, or I could just throw down 2 minions and really start some swarm pressure on my opponent. So the Gurubashi Berserker immediately gives him a threat that he has to contend with. I'm going to go ahead and go for that trade. I love it. This is going to turn nasty very, very quickly. I do like it. So we've got 2 kind of options now. We can either just throw down the big minion and try and get some nasty pressure on next go, or we can throw down 2 minions and put some swarm pressure on. I'm actually going to go for the swarm pressure. But you can see that then, nicely, because I've dropped the Sorcerer's Apprentice, I then get a free Arcane Missiles. There's nothing else on the table. So for 0 mana, I get 3 damage. Nice. Very much liking that. Nothing else I can do. And remember that Master Swordsmith, we've kept him alive now for 5 turns, and he is just plugging away, buffing away. Although you guys are, I love the fact that you're so confident in this deck and our current gameplay position, but remember, Holy Nova. All it takes is 1 Holy Nova, or an Orkanai Soul Priest, perhaps with a Circle of Healing, and we're back to square one. So this game is by no means finished. Of course, ooh, and a Gurubashi Berserker from our priest friend. He's gone straight out with there as well. Our poor priest friend. It's really not quite his day, is it? I'm just going to go straight up with the controlling polymorph, and then you can see the polymorph fire blast combo, and we can then just put some pressure on with every single minion. Loving your work, guys. This is a very nice arena deck. I love it when a plan comes together. But, oh, and the Thought Steal. He did not have a Holy Nova, but he Thought Stealed our Blizzard. What are the odds? I do remember, of course, that we get that draw, which is good. So, what do we have? Well, I can Archmage down. Blizzard, a Cone of Cold. I can't freeze any minions, there's no real point in doing that. So I'm going to throw that down, and I'm just going to ping a damage onto that. Let's buff up for 5. So, you can see that just for one attack, just one damage, I've already got a 5 minion. I can ping that next turn and make it an 8. That is going to be GG, unless he can take this out. It will be good game next turn. There you go. Now that was my challenge. Maybe I should have not buffed that up against a priest, because I should have known that I was in danger of a Shadow Word Death. And you can see this questing adventure actually, with 2 cards being played, suddenly becoming a bit nasty. So let us not get too arrogant too quickly. I can drop a Harvest Golem, I can freeze a minion next to it, do some damage, I can throw lots of freezes down, so I'm pretty comfy with that. I'm going to drop a Harvest Golem, I'm just going to freeze that Questing Adventurer because there's nothing I can do to it for now, and tap on the table. So I could have had a win there if I'd played a bit more sensibly. Buffing it on that turn brought it within range of Shadow Word Death. Even though I did not know for certain that my opponent had a Shadow Word Death, I could have had a reasonable idea, so... Fen Creeper, and you see now this is slowing me down quite a lot. Our priest deck is now coming out, and we can see that that Questing Adventurer now becoming very, very nasty, so I need to make sure that I fully keep him under control. So Blizzard will let me freeze everything again, but it's only going to give me another turn's worth of grace. Arcane Explosion, I'm going to have to Blizzard. At least that gets rid of that pesky Shattered Sun Cleric. If I lose, then it would have certainly been because of me making a little error. So what I'm doing here is I want to try and remove this Fen Creeper. We might be in a bit of trouble, although we've got a nice health advantage. Our priest's got a full hand, we have nothing. And he's also got that Questing Adventurer, unless we can get rid of that. Remember that we do have a Flame Strike somewhere. Firstly, he heals it up, he wants to keep it in play, and with 7 mana out of 9, I'm sure that our priest has got some more options. Swamp Ooze for some swarmage, but remember just every card he plays. Oh my goodness, doubling the health of the minion as well. 14 attack, 14. Oh, that is painful. 16, picking up his tank again. Well. Oh dear, right. Arcane Intellect. Okay. Right, we need to think very carefully, because he could have lethal, but we need to find a way of doing 9 damage next turn. So the initial impression would be to throw out the Archmage and the Ancient Mage. I think. Throw those 2 down with spell damage 1 on each, then we've almost got enough for the critical. He'll have to pick off some minions, which with those 2 minions he's not going to be able to do. He can probably pick off the Golem. I think this is... Oh, hang on. Oh! Wait, what happened there? Oh, I've already played the Arcane Intellect. Misplay. Okay. I'd already played the Arcane Intellect. So if we've lost, I think we can trace that back to a decision I made, which was actually, this is how arena games can turn. I fire blasted my Gurubashi Berserker 1 turn too early. By doing so, I let it be vulnerable to the removal, and therefore, and there we go, that is pretty much good game. Yes, killing one of the 3/2s could have been an option. I, for some reason, thought I had 10 mana rather than anything else. And he's just going for the safe option now of removing that last minion on the table. You know, unless I had a polymorph and I'd... Oh, what is the definition of top deck? Oh, very well played. Very good game, guys. I cannot believe we got away with that. That is the definition of getting away with murder. And welcome to the Power Moves, man. It's great to have you. Cool. So for those of you who have just joined, we're doing our Arena Tuesday, pick your own arena. So everyone in the chat has picked the hero for tonight. You guys picked Mage on Twitter earlier. Thank you very much. We then went through the process of picking our own deck. And last but not least, we are just throwing it into a couple of games to see how it performs. So our Mage is at the moment focusing on early game pressure, and with that early game pressure we want to get early game minions out and put lots of pressure down. We then have options in the mid game where we can keep the table under control, and then in the late game we've got some spells to finish off. But the important thing is minions early game chip damage. We're playing a druid. Now Frostbolt is a nice keep. I'm quite happy to keep that. In fact, I'm going to trade it back for minions. I quite like minions in the early game. Something like a ratio of sort of maybe, I think it's like a 16 minion, don't know, it's kind of like 20 minions 10 spells, or 19 minions 11 spells. Right, again, turn 1, we've got the lovely option of Shield Bearer, so let's drop that down. Guys, you guys picking Shield Bearer earlier, actually, you know, I didn't think of it at the time, but it's comboed so great with Master Swordsman last game. Really, really good fun. So let's see if we can get similar luck this turn. And straight up, we've got a Bloodfen Raptor out. We are going second. That's still going to take a couple of turns. And again, we get our Master Swordsman. So two options. We can go for the Arcane Missiles and hope that we take this out. That will be a bit of a luck play. But then we can drop the Swordsman straight up. That Raptor is threatening, so I'm going to risk the Arcane Missiles. 1, 2, got lucky. Love it. Well played, guys. And then, you know what, actually I think it's not such a bad play if we just coin out our Master Swordsman as well. So not only have we managed with that nice draw of the Arcane Missiles to remove that threatening Raptor, we've also managed to start again, same as last game, our buffing process going, just like a Zoo Warlock deck, the Master Swordsman making other things more awkward. So lots of fun there. Let's see how it goes. So Druid, what could we expect from a Druid? You folks could have picked Druid earlier. It was one of our arena options. And oh, we've got Pyroblast in hand. Lovely stuff. Can I pick this off in one go? I cannot. Do I want to be enraging it immediately? I do not. Shall I throw down a Harvest Golem? I shall. So as soon as I enrage and give that one attack, 3 attack on the enrage, it becomes nasty and starts picking through my minions. So I don't want to actually start give that Tauren the ability to take me out in one go. Nice, very nicely played. Druid silencing a minion, coming through, and then he's taken out the threat and buffed himself up. He knows that the Swordsmith is a threat. So what do we have now? Well, the Sorcerer's Apprentice, why don't we do some damage? I think that my combo here, just to get one more turn's worth of goodness out of the Master Swordsmith, is to use my Harvest Golem to just take out that tanking threat. Now I can throw down the Sorcerer's Apprentice, but it will be a threat for removal, or I could just ping for 1. I'm going to risk the Sorcerers, go in and drop that in there, and then I don't want my Swordsmith to be dying, so I can do that. I've still got the 2 mana. I may as well put 1 mana ping on that, so if he does try and trade with me, he's going to get destroyed. And then he didn't remove the Swordsmith. Okay, we get another damage on there, so there are 2 different trades I can do. Very, very nice. Now, dropping your Sorcerer's Apprentice this early in the game is risky because people will generally tend to go for it. A nice play by our Druid with Wrath. He can do 1 damage, draw a card. 2 Wraths in a row. My goodness. Not only does he get rid of 2 of my minions, but he draws 2 cards. And remember, in Arena, of course, you can have more than 2 of any single card. So you don't have standard constructed rules in Arena. Finally, he can jump in with that Claw and remove, and he's still got a minion on the table. Very nicely played by our Druid there. We should definitely credit where credit's due. That was a very nice play. So I don't really have anything else to do apart from get out my Imp Master and start swarming with the Impies and see what we can do. I want to try and clear this Keeper of the Grove off the table. Remember the theme of our deck. We are trying to put pressure on the hero in the early to mid game. We are trying to keep the table clear so we can clear the table for our damage in the late game. Oh, nasty, nasty, nasty. The Arcane Golem, that could remove my Imp Master and still have time to spare, and he will do so, and as he does so, the Flesh Eating Ghoul for a rare card is getting buffed and buffed and buffed and buffed. Right, decisions, guys. We can either Ogre, we can Flame Strike and just reset the table. Might be an option, but it's a bit of a waste of the heavy damage of Flame Strike. We can Warden, but the Warden, there's just too much damage there, so you know what, let's go for a Flame Strike. It's not ideal, but it keeps our table clear, and remember the goal of our deck was to keep the table clear. Dropping the Ogre would have probably just caused a trade and he would have still been ahead on minions. Dropping the Warden would have again just maybe caused one trade and he would have still been ahead on minions, so it's the best of a bad bunch really, that play. And a sensible play there. Takes no damage on his hero, but eliminates the means of me removing that loot hoarder this go. Yeah, it's not fantastic, Lud, but I wouldn't worry too much. We still have options. I do have an option here. Do I put the big thread on the table, or do I put the taunt down and then remove the loot hoarder? So two options there. I think protecting this is nice. I'm actually going to go... I could just drop the Ogre as a threat, but I'm going to go for this combo. Oh, nicely done. So I got lucky with the Knife Juggler. Juggler? Is this a European Knife Juggler? I don't know. But that drop, and then I still had the option of the Fire Blast as well for removal. Oh, nice, he's got a Druid of the Claw down, some tankage to get in the way. He can then just, if he wants to, swing into something. Yeah, he's just going to do a chip damage. Just bringing my tank slowly within range. I'll tell you what, a Polymorph would be nice right now. So, options, right. Well, firstly, I can throw down my Ogre. Bosh. Chip damage to the hero. Secondly, I may as well just Frostbolt and freeze that, so it's not going to be doing anything. I don't want to forfeit my Knife Juggler at this point. I might do next turn. I could just trade it away. That is an option, but I can trade it away next go as well. So for that reason, unless he drops another tank... For those of you just joining us, ooh, right, a Sea Giant, okay, options, and interestingly, does giving a friendly minion 1/1, has he just been cleansed of his freeze? I did not know that, or have I missed something? He seems to have lost his freeze there, which is a little bit annoying. The Cleric's Blessing removes a freeze. Oh, sorry, well, it's my turn, so the freeze would have been removed anyway. I digress. Okay, so Archmage, that will give us options. That Giant is going to be nasty, but I can keep things alive for just one more turn. Right, options. Here, I'm going to keep that Pyroblast in hand. And get a spell damage. It would have been nice if that one had chipped away at that. I'm going to drop one there. I'm going to remove the tank. It's not nice to lose that, but that does give me the option of smashing her in the face. Now, do note... the reason for that, I did think of the... yep, indeed, you're right, I was being stupid thinking that the freeze had been removed. I'm just losing track. 4 attack or 4 health and taunt. He's gone for the... oh, that is nasty. The removal of the taunt, giving me problems of getting through. A shapeshift as well. Now, if I draw a Polymorph, I can win. I had critical, but I just cannot get through that tank. A very awkward tank indeed. Pyring the Giant could have been a very strong option, you guys, you're quite right. I can just I can nuke the Giant off the table in one go. So although I'd love to save that to deal damage to the face, I think that you're quite right, and that pyroing is going to be the option there. I didn't really want to do that, but I think that just keeping the momentum going, particularly because we're low on cards, is probably quite a sound plan. So I'm going to go for the trade to keep my spell damage alive, and then just smash in. So pyroing... didn't want to do that, but keeping the momentum going. Note that we're just short of critical next go. Doing the couple of turns, healing touch. He's keeping himself in there. Shapeshift, he can attack my hero, stack up some armor and damage. Oh, that does not destroy anything, but it's another minion that you can start trading with. So that healing touch has been causing trouble. Right, What have I got? I can do 4 damage and freeze with the spell damage. I can do 14, but that is not enough. So I'm probably going to need to look now at keeping the table under control. Now, what is the best way to do this? Well, I think let us go for... I want to try and keep my minions as alive as possible. So, spell-wise, let's remove the one that we can't remove. Let's throw him down. Let's then remove him. Now, the reason I'm going for control is because while I still have table control, given that we're both low on cards, he could spring some miracle play like he did with his healing touch, but if I just keep solid damage on him, you can see again I now have critical next go. He has to... the tanks and the tanks and the tanks. I now no longer have critical next go. And sensible play. He's taken the damage on himself there though, look. So he knows that I just was short of critical again. The loot hoarder will let me draw. So again, I'm just going to have to... Yep, hang on, I needed to calculate that correctly. I almost attacked with my ogre, but note that by using my bubble, I can remove that tank and just keep that pressure on. A very nice deck that you guys have drafted, really very much appreciate it. You can see that just by making sure that I didn't play too quickly, and as you guys have been watching this game, oh, he is committed Harikiri. There we go. Very good game, guys. Level 24. I should play my Mage more. So that's a really, really good start to our run. So thank you very much, guys. It was very, very enjoyable. So you guys really, really have come through with a nice, tasty little deck there. So thank you very much for tuning in to tonight's Hearthstone Half Hour. So you can see with that deck, you guys picked Mage, as we always do on picked a arena hero for us to play, as we always do on Arena Tuesday. You then drafted a really nice deck actually, working very, very smoothly. Although it's got lots of singles, the mana curve in the early game, we're throwing down minions, we're putting on pressure, we're controlling with spells and minions in the mid game, and then we've got some nice finishing plays. Just a really, really solid curve. Working pretty nicely. So thanks so much for tuning in. If you're new to the Hearthstone Half Hour, we'll do a quick roundup as always. If you tuned in live on twitch.tv/FailCraft Casts, don't go away, we're going to have a short break and then probably continue streaming for a short period afterwards. But where can you find us normally? youtube.com/FailCraft Casts. You can see our archive. We try and go out 4 to 5 nights a week, 7:30 to 8-ish UK time. Monday is New Player Monday, Deck Garage. We break down decks and examine them. Tuesday, Arena Tuesday, like you've seen today. Wednesday is Ladder, where we just pure up the ladder and see what's going on in the competitive environment. Thursday, we look at more advanced tactics around. Friday, we do fun Hearthstone or just another game entirely. That's us. Twitter, if we are not streaming, at FailCraft Casts on Twitter. Do drop us a tweet, say hello. We'll love to chat Hearthstone and all kinds of video games. And last but not least, failcraft.org is the website. You can find all of our videos on there, articles and a bunch of other stuff too that doesn't live well in videos, so it's good to see you. And as always, any feedback you have, we'd love to know. If you love it, please let us know what we can do more of. We just want to make content that you guys enjoy. If you didn't enjoy it so much, again, don't have to like it or share it or anything, but if you could just comment or drop us a tweet and let us know what you thought was bad, then we can improve it more for you in future. Thanks so much for tuning in. This has been FailCraft Casts. I've been Hammy as always, and it has been great to have you with us. Stay tuned. If you join us tomorrow, we're going to be jumping hard into the ladder. It's the end of Season 2. We're going to see if we can get any closer to that elusive legend rank. So those live, don't go away. Those